Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rosine McVeigh, and with me is Ashley Krahoot. We're both co-founders of DishZero, which is a reusable takeout container and mug share program offered at the University of Alberta, namely within the Students' Union building, and we're actually running right now in Philly Sticks and at the Daily Grind. And very similarly to Lily, I'd like to ask you all a question right before we begin. I'd like you to please raise your hand if you purchased a coffee this morning or a similarly warm beverage. Thank you, Rema. Yes, thank you. And I'd like you to keep your hand raised, please, if you purchase that coffee in a single-use cup. Awesome. Okay, perfect. As consumers, when you're purchasing that warm beverage or that coffee, were you thinking about what happens to that cup when you're done using it? And if so, what exactly were you thinking about? The question that we are really concerned with as DishZero co-founders is, what prevented you from using reusables? Perhaps the reusable alternative was really expensive, or perhaps it was just really inconvenient. Maybe even your vendor of choice just doesn't allow for reusables to begin with. And this is a question that really plagued my mind back in 2019, when I was 2 years into my undergrad degree studying immunology and infection. And as you can probably imagine, I was extremely stressed, and I was easily drinking 2 to 3 coffees a day, which meant that I was attending coffee shops 2 to 3 times a day, but also zero waste stations or garbage cans that frequently as well. And on one particularly busy day, and those of you who were here before the COVID-19 pandemic may fondly or unfondly remember how busy it used to be, I was actually here in cab trying to throw my empty coffee cup away. And the garbage can was literally made up of a mound of empty coffee cups as well. And I was trying to do this little balancing act of making sure my coffee cup was right at the top of the Christmas tree of coffee cups that made up the garbage. And unfortunately, I made a wrong move, and they all fell down onto me and onto the ground and everywhere. And I was frustrated not just because I was covered in coffee, but also because the level of waste that we were producing as a campus just felt really ridiculous and unreasonable. And I knew that there must be an alternative, especially in such a closed campus like North Campus here at the U of A. At that point in time, I was managing the reusable disc program with my close friend, Elise Mulbauer, who is now also a co-founder of DishZero. And we decided to come together and create a reusable takeout container service, which would reduce the amount of waste associated with purchasing food on our campus. We decided to call that reusable takeout container service ReTakeout. This was at the end of 2019 to early mid 2020, and we weren't sure if 2 undergrad students could pull something like this off. So we consulted the resources that we had accessible to us, which included the Undergraduate Research Initiative, with the one-card offices, and SustainSU. But we also talked to different institutions who were doing a very similar thing on their campuses, and that included McGill University, MacEwan University, and even Humboldt University, who launched their program right in the middle of COVID-19. And while we were doing all this research and all this planning, we came across Ashley, who is also really passionate about reducing single-use waste and environmental conservation. And we also came across a program who is doing something really, really similar right here on our own campus. And that program was the Engineering Student Society Mugshare Program. The ESS Mugshare Program was founded by Allegra Martel, and she came up with the idea also in 2019 when she was walking home from campus one day and saw a car rideshare program. And she thought to herself, why can't we just apply the principles of a rideshare program to mugs so we can reduce waste on our own campus? We met with the Mugshare program right after their successful 2-week-long pilot program, and Ashley, Mugshare, and ReTakeout all came together and decided to consolidate all of our ideas into DishZero, a reusable takeout and Mugshare container program that would be offered on our own campus and hopefully beyond in the future. Now, DishZero works because we all had the same vision and the same motivations. And at that point in time, we didn't know what DishZero would look like as it's operating here today, but we knew that it had to have 2 main founding principles. And the first one was it needed to be a by-campus, for-campus approach. And that means 2 different things. The first thing that it means is that DishZero needed to accurately reflect the needs of the campus community. When I was in my second year, I felt like a lot of the services that were accessible to me were created by university administration who weren't necessarily in contact or in touch with what the students really needed and wanted. And the second thing that a by-campus, for-campus approach means is that we really wanted to capitalize on and utilize the interdisciplinary talents of our campus community as well. So you'll find that within our core team, we all come from very, very different backgrounds. Like I mentioned earlier, I just graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Immunology and Infection. Ashley is currently studying environmental conservation. Our other co-founder, Alacy, studied biology and chemistry at Campus Saint-Jean, and Allegra studied chemical engineering. But our volunteers include people from business technology and management, the humanities, and we even have a volunteer up there sitting today who's studying, hi Kyle, computer engineering. And we have volunteers who are both undergraduate students and graduate students. And you'll find that every single aspect of this program, whether it be logistical planning, whether it be the literal programming, the building of infrastructure, or the carrying out of this program on a day-to-day basis, is done by students with students in mind. The second thing that we knew that DishZero had to do was place the onus of sustainable decision-making onto the institutions that produce and provide the waste and take it away and off of campus members as consumers. We knew that we could do this by making DishZero as accessible as possible, and that's kind of twofold. The first thing is DishZero is totally free to use. But the second thing is DishZero is integrated into your current purchasing behaviors, which Ashley will elaborate on a little bit more. It's a little bit confusing when you have 3 co-founders that all start with an A.
Great, thank you, Regine. So now that you know a little bit about how DishZero was created, I'm going to tell you about how it works. So as Regine mentioned, DishZero is a reusable container and mug program offered at the University of Alberta. Currently, we're operating in Daily Grind and Philly Sticks, and the purpose of it is to reduce single-use plastic waste on campus. So how it works, all you do is you go to the vendors that offer the program, you order your food as normal, and you ask for the dish to be in a DishZero container. And then once you receive your food, all you have to do is scan the QR code on the container. We have a demonstration container over here. It'll prompt you to a page like this. You put your UAlberta email in, and it'll tell you that you've signed the dish out. Once you've done that, all you have to do is go and enjoy your food or drink. Once you're done your food or drink, you have to find a DishZero return station. This is also located by Philly Sticks and Daily Grind. You leave your dish there, and we take care of the rest. So that's the steps that it takes for the consumer. But I'm going to tell you a little bit about what happens after. So myself and volunteers will go collect those dishes a couple times a week. We give them to the Meyer Horowitz Catering Center, where they're industrially sanitized and washed. We go back to the center in a couple days, and they're cleaned. We'll take those dishes and redistribute it to Daily Grind and Philly Sticks. Eventually, with DishZero, we want to expand. We're hoping to eventually become really integrated part of the campus community so that we're in a bunch of buildings and it is a well-known concept and it can be offered everywhere so that people can make sustainable options as they wish. So DishZero meets the 3 pillars of sustainability, as it is economically feasible for both the vendor and the user. Because so for the vendor, we offer the dishes to them free of charge. All the dishes have been purchased with with a grant that we got, and we purchased the dishes. So all they have to do is just tell us that they want to participate and tell us how many dishes, and we provide it for them. It is also economically feasible for the user, because if you actually use the program, Daily Grind or Philly Sticks will give you a discount for your food for using our program, which they kindly helped us and offer that discount. Also, it is environmentally sustainable, as we are reducing the single-use plastic waste that is created on campus. As Regine said, there are piles and piles of mugs or takeout containers, so this offers an alternative to that. As well, the containers that we do have, we thought about their end of life to make sure that they don't end up in a big pile like the single-use plastics. So they're made of polypropylene plastic, which means that they can be recycled at their end of life at the TerraCycle recycling facilities. Lastly, we are also socially sustainable, as we offer a free of cost, accessible, and convenient program for people to use in a way to help them improve their sustainable footprint. It can often be very overwhelming to think of climate change or large-scale issues such as waste production and things like that. It can be really easy to start getting really anxious or ignore the possible solutions because it's so overwhelming. And to think about what the future holds is so scary, and it's really easy to just not think about it at all. And I don't blame you. It also doesn't help that a lot of the time with sustainability, the onus of making a change is placed on the individual, which is not fair a lot of the time. Because, for example, if you want to reduce your carbon dioxide emissions, you should drive your car less, which is extremely unreasonable and not realistic for a lot of people. So how does one go about making large-scale changes, especially when thinking about how overwhelming and scary it can be? What we found when creating DishZero is to first find an issue. And it is really important to note that this issue that you find is something you're passionate about. Because even when it gets hard, or you have doubts, or people critique what you're doing, this passion allows you to just continue and just keep driving forward even when everybody's telling you to stop. It can also be helpful when thinking about solutions, because when you have a problem, you can think about what it can look like. And when thinking about solutions, it's really important to note that you don't have to be some sort of first-time creator of like a crazy solution nobody's ever thought of. It's okay if you take ideas that people have already started that are great in other communities. Like Raji mentioned, there have been other universities that have done this, and we just took that idea and transformed it in a way that was applicable to our campus community and used our interdisciplinary knowledge and skills to make this happen. It's also okay just to write a letter or make yourself heard in those ways. It may feel small and that your individual action doesn't matter, but it does. It's really important to making change. Like our other speakers have mentioned, every person, every mind matters when trying to achieve that change. Second is to define the scale and stakeholders. So who are you attempting to change here? What are you attempting to change? And who is being affected by it? So, example, for DishZero, the creation of plastic waste is a global issue. And in order to manageably address this, we decided to choose our scale being the University of Alberta campus, because for us it was accessible and we already had a connection to it. We could use our interdisciplinary skills and our knowledge to help address this issue, and it was familiar to us. Lastly, our advice is just to go for it. This is so much easier said than done. It can be really stressful, and it's so easy to have doubts and question yourself and just start letting everybody else's thoughts and opinions get in your head. But you just have to go for it. I remember sitting in presentations like the one that myself and the other speakers are given and thinking, oh, I'm not smart enough for that. I'm not loud enough. I'm not charismatic enough. I'm too quiet. I'm too shy. But the reality is there's no one single personality type or formula that you have to have in order to make a change. You just have to see something you don't like and want to fix it and have that passion and that drive to fix it. That's what's most important. For example, we were just 4 individuals at university who saw huge mounds of waste and did not like this. So we decided to make a change. We used the skills, the knowledge, and the resources we had to try and achieve this. So I challenge everybody here to think of an issue that you see in society, whether that be small or large, and think of the ways that you can change it. Everybody has a power within them. Everybody has a power to make a change and to see something, even just to say something about it. So I challenge all of you to find that issue and let your passion drive you. Thank you.